Welcome back. In this video, we're going to prepare this custom UI that you see here, and this will be used for the timer because I want the circles to behave like a timer, where they are like a clock, basically getting less and less filled. And therefore, we will need to use a bunch of custom UI elements. Okay, so we're going to build them, and we've seen how to build those before, right? It's oval shaped items, so we can really reuse a bunch of that stuff. You can try to build this yourself. It will be a little tricky, but I will just show you how it's done, okay? So we have this little text here, and then we have the circle. And by the way, I decided to then in the end not use a relative layout for the screen, because otherwise we are going to run into a not super efficient user interface. So we're going to use a constraint layout instead for this activity. So let's go over to activity exercise and to make sure that we are using a constraint layout here. So constraint layout like so. Okay, accordingly, the toolbar, of course, will need to know where it is positioned, relatively speaking. So let's add the constraints, and it just needs one constraint, and that is top to top of. Okay, so top to top of the parent. Okay, so the toolbar will be at the top, at the very top. And then what I'm going to add is also going to be a text view. Okay, so this text view will just say get ready for. It should wrap its content in both directions. Okay, I'm going to give it an ID. I'm going to give it the ID of text view title. And then the text itself should be set to get ready for, and you could of course go ahead and create a text item out of it inside of your text XML. Then the text size, I'm going to use 22 again, and this is the default button text size that I'm using here. So it's not really the button, but you could use the same dimension, or you could just enter 22 SP here. That's fine as well. Then the color should be accent. So the text color, to be precise, accent color, which is our green, this green here. The style should be bold. And I mean, of course, the text style. So text style should be bold. Okay, so now, of course, we need to add the constraints. And the constraints that we're going to need are going to be towards the left and right. So I want this to be positioned accordingly to the left and right of the parent. And then this item, so this text view, if you look at it, should be to the top of this other item. So let's create this other item, and this will be a frame layout which will contain a bunch of individual items. So progress bar, a linear layout with a text view. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that here. Frame layout will have 100 dp in its width and 100 dp in its height. I'm going to add a little bit of margin towards the top, so that it has a distance of 10 density pixels towards the top. And as the background, I'm going to create a new drawable. So add drawable, I'm going to use item. Well, actually, I think we have this one already. So the circular color accent border, we can actually use this one, which is this circle. You see, it's the same circle as we had here, only that it looks thicker in comparison, but it is the same thickness. It's 5 dp. And then we need to add the constraints. So the bottom to bottom of the parent, and then the start and end of to parent as well. So similar to what we had here. But then what's important is the top to bottom of the toolbar exercise. Okay. Now, this piece here, this text view, however, should be on top of the frame layout. So what we can do is we can add a top to bottom of this frame layout here. So this frame layout will then need an ID, of course. So I'm going to call this one FL Progress Bar. Okay, FL standing for frame layout progress bar. So here it will be the FL Progress Bar. Okay, so this frame layout, as you know, frame layouts are used for items that have items on top of each other. So what I'm going to use here is going to be a progress bar and then a linear layout with a text view. Okay, so that's quite a mouthful, but let's just get started with it. So first of all, let's use the progress bar. Okay, here, progress bar. It needs a width, of course, and I'm going to use 100 dp and the height of 100 dp as well. Then I'm going to give it an ID. So ID will be progress bar. The style, I'm going to use a style that is already predefined. So in the Android folder, so here I accidentally ran it. So here in Android :attribute, there is a progress bar style horizontal. That's the one that I want to use. It's just a style for a progress bar. And the progress bar shows your progress, right? And then it should have a layout gravity of center. So the layout should be centered. The background, well, therefore we're going to need to create an extra circle. I'm going to set the maximum value of this progress bar to 10 and the progress to 100%. And then I want to have a rotation of -90 degrees. And why is that? Well, that's because usually a progress bar starts like at here, for example, on the right hand side, and it goes like this. Okay, so it would go all the way in a circle, but I wanted to start at the top. Okay, I wanted to start here at the top, so I need to turn it by 90 degrees, so by the quarter, to start at the top. That's what this rotation -90 will do for me. And I will need a couple more settings for this progress bar, but for them to be available, I need to create a couple of more drawables here. Okay, so first of all, let me create a new drawable called circular progress _bar, and it will use a layer list. Okay, so let me set that up. The layer list of multiple items. Okay, so the first item will be a shape, and this shape will have an inner radius ratio of 2.7. It will have the shape of a ring, so not just an oval, but an actual ring. I want it to have a thickness ratio of 50%, and the use level value will be set to true. Okay, and now if you want to know about any of this stuff, you should check out the documentation. So here we're inside of a drawable resource, right? And here you can find what a layer list, for example, is. You can see the syntax, the elements, what each element does. So item defines a drawable to place in the layer drawable in a position defined by its attributes, must be a child of a layer list element, except child bitmap element. So you can use bitmaps in there. But what we are interested in is in particular the, for example, use level, right? So here you search for use level and you see what it does. So a Boolean true if this is used as a level list drawable. This should normally be false or your shape may not appear. And then if this is used as a level list drawable. Okay, what is a level list drawable? Well, you can read through the details. A resource that manages a number of alternate drawables, each assigned a maximum numeric value, and so forth. So we're going to work with values and numbers, and we're going to make a timer, so to speak. That's the idea behind it, right? So inside of here, I want to display a number, and that's why I need all of this stuff. You can also see what the inner radius ratio is, what the thickness ratio is, what the thickness is, and so forth. Because these are the values that I am using in my project here, right? So thickness ratio of 50%. If you look at it, it says the thickness of the ring expresses as a ratio of the ring's width. For instance, if the thickness ratio 2, then the thickness equals to the ring's width divided by 2. Okay. And then you have the inner radius ratio. The radius for the inner part of the ring expressed as a ratio of the ring's width. For instance, a radius of 5, then the inner radius equals the ring's width divided by 5. And now what I want to use inside of this shape is going to be a solid color accent background. So our color accent background like so. All right, and this is our circular progress bar. This will just show the progress So how far we are in the progress. At least that's the UI I want to use for it. And now let's go ahead and create a circular progress bar gray. So I'm just going to copy that and call it gray, like so, or gray XML. And now the difference here will just be that we're going to use a different color. So here I'm just going to use a gray, light gray color, I believe it was. So here add color. Well, the thing is the IDE doesn't help me here. So I'm just going to hard code the value in here, D4DEE7. Okay, so that's the rest is pretty much the same. We still have a layer list with an item and the shape. We're currently not using it, however. And then we just need to have the accent background. Okay, so we have the accent border and the ripple background, but we need to have the accent background as well. And you will see once we are implementing it how all of this comes together. So item, circular, color, accent, background. So I'm going to call this one. And this will just be a shape. So let's replace this with shape. And the shape will be a circle. So let's use oval once again here. So shape oval, as well as a solid background color. So solid Android color, which will be the accent color. And here, accent like so. Okay, so this will create this solid background color, which we have in the center. Okay, so we have the center, we have the progress bar, and we have another circle. And now let me set up the rest of our exercise XML file. So activity exercise. So we have the progress bar here, but we will also need to have the text view in the middle. Okay, so in order to set it up, I'm going to add a linear layout here. And let me add the linear layout. The linear layout will have a width of 60 density pixels and height of 60 density pixels. And then I wanted to have a layout gravity towards the center. So this should also be in the center of the screen. As the background, I'm going to use the item circular accent background. And as the gravity itself, I want to use center as well. So the layout inside of it should be centered, but the linear layout itself should also be centered. And then I'm going to use a text view in here, which will then display the actual time that is running. So here, wrap content towards both directions, and I need to have an ID, which I'm going to call text view timer, because I'm going to have to override this value constantly. So what else do we need in here? Well, I'm just going to use a white color, a bold text style, a size of 25 SP, a text of 10 as the tools text, so that we can see how this is going to look like. And now we don't have a background for our progress bar yet. So let's add that. So I'm going to set the background to be our circular progress gray that we had set up. And then the progress drawable, this one will be the progress bar. Okay, so the circular progress bar. And then there is a setting that I'm going to have to set, and that is to indeterminate. And I'm going to set that to false. And that is because we know the duration of our progress bar. So use indeterminate mode for the progress bar when you do not know how long an operation will take. Well, in our case, we know how long an operation will take. It will either take 10 seconds or 30 seconds, which is why we set the terminate setting to false. Okay, so indeterminate setting to false, that's what I mean. All right, we're setting it to false because we know how long it's going to take. And now if we look at this design, we can see that we get this design here. So let me run this real quick. And we see we don't have the exact same design because the get ready for text is underneath. So that's definitely something that we can set up here for our text view. So top to bottom of FL progress bar. And if we set that to bottom to top of progress bar, we'll see that now it will be on top of it. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. It was quite an effort, as you see, to set up this custom UI, but that's just how it is sometimes. If a designer comes to you and says, I want this to look exactly like this, well, then you will work on it and try to make it look exactly like they wanted it to. And that's basically one way of creating this double circle behavior, and later on you will see how the time will pass inside of it. Okay, and that's it for this video. See you in the next one.